Good evening and welcome to the September 15th, 2021 meeting of the Town of Waterboro Planning Board. Tonight we have 5 items that are going to be taken up tonight. The first 2 are on as public hearings. The first one concerning the AR zone amendment concerning bulk propane storage. And the second public hearing is on contract zone submitted by Dave Alves. Number 3, we're going to be taking up an update on the solar ordinance. Item 4 is to review, consider, and adopt amended bylaws of the planning board. And number 5 will be a discussion regarding exemptions of 40-acre or more lots in subdivisions. And before we kick things off, we'll ask Angela to please call the roll of the board.
Devin Chamberlain.
Here.
Clyde Smith.
Here.
Edward Zelenow.
I'm present.
Corey Anthony.
Yes.
Rebecca Higgins.
Present.
Diane Gray is absent this evening.
Great, thanks Angela. We do have 5 members here, so we do have a sufficient number to conduct business this evening. First of which being reviewing the minutes of the previous meetings, which hopefully everybody has received a copy of and has had a chance to review. And it looks like we are reviewing the July 21st, August 18th, and September 1st minutes. Does anybody have any questions, any edits, changes, additions to them at all?
No more.
All right, here.
On August 18th, I've noticed, I picked up on it, Michael Rogers is not from BH2M, he's actually from the Bean Group out of South Portland.
Okay, so we'll have that change made, and unless there's an objection, we'll admit those 3 meeting minutes as approved with the one change that Angela just picked up on. The next thing which isn't on the agenda that I brought up the last time was the formation of 2 committees for the planning board, an ordinance review committee and a zoning review committee. And I'd asked the members of the board to just think about which committees you'd like to possibly be on. So I just wanted to bring that up again, and maybe at the next meeting we can discuss it a little more and see who wants to be on which committees, and maybe try getting them set to take things up. So we'll move on to item number 1 is concerning the AR zone amendment concerning bulk propane storage, which is also on as a public hearing. I didn't know if our town planner, Lee J, wanted to just give a quick update on it for the public to let everybody know where we are with it.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. So there was a request made to the select board a couple of meetings ago to consider changing our ordinance to allow bulk storage of propane, propane tank refill stations, and small propane tank swap cages in the AR zone. And so the select board had sent that to us to take a look at and make some amendments. And as we discussed at the last meeting, what you have before you this evening, after some questions were asked of me from Dave Christensen, a former board member, and some of you folks, have made some minor amendments to that to make sure that everything makes sense, and wanted to make sure that the village zone and the general purpose zone, which already allowed that to occur, also had similar language so that there was no question as to whether or not what was allowed in one zone was not allowed in the other zone. So what you have before you this evening is a definition of bulk oil gasoline storage, which now includes bulk propane storage, including propane tank refill stations and small propane tank swap cages added to the definition, and then a swap out, in the village zone to delete the current language that is in the village zone and add it with the same language that you find in the definition section of the ordinance. The same with the AR zone. There is currently no wording because that's where the request was coming from, to add that to the AR zone. And that is underlined in the second page for you to be considered. and then the same in the general purpose zone to strike out the current wording and add the new wording so that it's consistent through the 3 zones. You folks will hold your public hearing this evening, take any comments that there may be, and then formulate a recommendation to go back to the select board for their consideration once you're done.
Great, thanks, Lee J. Before we open the public hearing, is there any other comments or work that needs to be done from the planning board? All right, then we'll open it up to the public. Now is the opportunity for the public to let their thoughts be known on this. If you have any comments, we ask that you please come up to the podium, identify yourself by name and address for the record, and share with us your thoughts. Don't all push and shove. There's more than enough time. All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing. If there's nothing else further from the planning board on this, then we would need a motion to forward this back to the selectmen with our recommendation that they consider and adopt this amendment to the AR zone. All right, we got a motion by Devin. Do we have a second?
A second.
Yeah, by Rebecca. All right, anything further on it? All in favor? We have 5 yeas. So this will be sent up to the selectmen for their review, and I believe they'll also be holding a public hearing as well. Item 2, taking up again the contracted zone for Dave Alves, and if I'm pronouncing the last name incorrectly, I do apologize.
That's okay.
So I don't know if Lee J wanted to bring us up to date on this before the planning board again discusses it, and we open up for a public hearing.
Certainly. Just a quick overview again. Contract zoning is something that is in the current zoning ordinance, very seldom used, but is allowed under state law for zoning purposes. And what it allows is for a developer to engage with the select board and the planning board in developing the allowance of, in this case, higher density for development that would normally be allowed in the current zone that's there, which in this case is village zone. And so the applicant came forward to the select board and requested this contract zone, which has been vetted by the town's attorney as well as the applicant's attorney. And they have been with the select board. The select board recommended that it do come to you folks for consideration. We've had one meeting on that. Tonight, as you did indicate, is the public hearing. What would happen next for the public's understanding is that your recommendation will go back to the select board. The select board can adopt the contract as proposed, adopt it with any additional recommendations or changes that you have, or make their own changes and recommendations. Once an action is taken, if it is a positive action to adopt this contract zone for this particular piece of property, it does not impact any place else in town, then the applicant would then have to come forward to the board with a full-blown development application like anybody else would, and it would go through the review process with you folks as any other development would.
Great, thanks, Lee J. Is there anything further from the board or the developers? If you have anything new to add to this, I know that we had substantial discussions on this the last time it was here, and we went over everything. Has anything changed at all since then, or it's still the same contract zone, same?
Nothing has changed, to my knowledge. Stephen?
No.
Okay, great.
No, 36 residential, 3 commercial, garage. Same thing.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so we'll open it up to the public. Again, now is the public's opportunity to share their thoughts with us. I just ask you to come up to the podium one at a time and identify yourself by name and address for the record, and share with us your thoughts and your comments on this. Good evening, welcome.
Thank you. My name's Vicki Edgerly. I live at 64 Everett Lane. I'm just a little surprised. This has already been discussed with the planning board before the abutters were notified? Is there something in the process that I missed?
I don't believe it,
So the way you're introducing it, the project was introduced to the planning board. There was an introduction. There's nothing else beyond. The project was introduced. You guys were notified of the planning board the public hearing being set. So there's no talks in the process. It was an introduction to the planning board.
right, and not to confuse things up, what we're talking about is the contract zone, just to change the zoning on that piece of property. There's no actual application before us for any type of development on the property just yet. We're just discussing the contract zone itself, which would allow for a development once that application comes in. So I just wanted to make that clear for everybody so that there is no confusion in there.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
That explains why the proposal isn't specific.
Exactly,
Thank you.
you got it.
Okay. A contract zone can be a very useful tool when used properly. And I heard your city planner say that, or town planner say that it hasn't been used in Waterboro very often. In areas where there is a housing shortage or not enough available land or a need for a specific type of facility that will benefit the community, it can prove invaluable. However, that's not the case here. Waterboro has over 57 square miles of land. There is plenty of room for developments that fall within the standard zoning ordinances. If I've calculated properly, the parcel of land being considered for development is large enough for at least 16 homes with room for lawns and gardens and outside activities. The proposed development would cram 36 households and 3 commercial buildings into a space designed for 16 homes. This would create a problem for the community as well as the residents would not have space for outdoor activities. And allowing this development would set precedent for other landowners and developers whose purpose is to maximize their profits, not benefit the community. Already another landowner who owns property in this neighborhood has contacted a realtor with the intention of creating another similar development. How will the planning board be able to deny others if this is approved? The plan requires the developer to provide safe pedestrian access to the current, barely surviving medical center. If the purpose of allowing a contract zone is to help bring life to the current business area, this requirement fails. If it were to be approved, it should at least require a sidewalk along Route 202 that would provide safe pedestrian bicycle access for all community members. I have not seen that a traffic study has been required. Placing 36 residences and 3 commercial businesses at this location would most certainly increase the traffic and number of accidents in an area that is considered to already be problematic. I would urge the planning board to deny this proposal and to allow the use of contract zones only when it will be to the benefit of the community as a whole.
Great, thank you, Vicki. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this contract zone request? All right, seeing no takers, then we will close the public hearing. Is there anyone on the planning board with other comments, or if the applicant wishes to respond to the comments at all, or?
Sure. I'm Steve Blaze.
Hey, Steve.
Blaze Civil Engineers. I'm working with Dave and Mike on this contract zone. I think Lee J here has the most experience on how these, how everything fits in. There are a lot of purposes for wanting more density near a more dense part of town for village concept. I will say I did listen to the last planning board meeting because I heard there was a question about a sidewalk. I found it similar. I went on the DOT website to look at recent bids, and Camden Rockport just 3 months ago, they combined 2 projects, probably for scales of economy, but 0.94 miles. We're talking just to get to Hannaford's a quarter mile, and then there would need, and actually, if you can put up number 2, think that's what I have. The thing with sidewalks is, they're cheap to build, just a sidewalk. But they stretch along they're long and they change everything. There's kind of things in the way. So what we're talking is where you see the Goodall and where the property on the right of that. So as was talked about before, it's a DOT project. So we'd be starting right about there. And, you know, as you see, oh, perfect. I should probably talk to the mic anyways, right? Yes.
Yeah, we don't have a handheld mic, no handheld mics here.
So from here to there is about a quarter mile. And then, of course, you know, I looked up and down the street. There's a little bit of sidewalk here, but I'm 90% sure it wouldn't meet today's codes with ADA and safety and everything. And then you'd have to find a way to Hannaford. You have a lot of private properties you're crossing. You have ledge here. There's immovable objects. There's a crash zone that goes along with the state road. It gets complicated awfully quick. The .94 mile project, low bid came in at $1.8 million. And the two other bids were 2.4. So, you know, Dave calls me up, can you give me an estimate? Oh, good one. You know, these things, just figuring out the land rights alone is a project. Because you don't, you know, you probably have to get access rights across private property, a bunch of different things, moving telephone poles, and pretty sure it's a ditch system there, most of it. So the water right now sheets to a ditch. Now you put in a sidewalk, and then you're putting in a catch basin system. It just gets complicated quick. So my guess, my gut punch, this is very preliminary, 700 grand. That's just a number I'm throwing. I'd be surprised if it was that cheap, but for a couple reasons, that's a pretty big undertaking crossing here. Wouldn't be surprised if there were flasher lights or something, and those, as you know, come in pretty expensive. And then it's kind of, then you have to figure out, do we come across, go here, come back across? It's a project, and these, I think, start off pretty political, right? Because it's a DOT project. They have funds to make these things happen. I think communities, EJ, step in whenever you want, but these communities kind of, there's these grants, there's these, I think the DOT a while back, a long time ago, part of the funds had to be in something other than vehicle, right? So they're trying to make these projects happen all across the state. Honestly, I don't do a lot of DOT work, so I don't know what the chances would be, but it's a huge undertaking.
Right.
And yes, it would benefit the town, absolutely. But that's my findings, you know, for what it's worth.
Great, thank you. And I know that Vicki brought up regarding this, as you started to mention, the increased density in this area. And it's good to put that type of increased density and to focus the growth within the town in specific areas where there's already existing infrastructure that would support it, like roadways, water, things of that nature. And I think that's one of the reasons why this site was actually identified by the developers, not elsewhere within the town, because it wouldn't work out anywhere else but in an area such as this. So I think that touches upon some of your concerns with it.
And Chairman, Michael Rogers, it also, we're trying to follow the excellent report from 2012, the Waterboro villages. It talks about the 4 villages, and just what you just said. The goal is to complement these areas and add in quality of life, so you can work there, you can live there, you can play there. So having all that, and this is what David's trying to do, and I'm not sure, I don't know about the other development, but is to help to complement the village and make it better for the people, for the community.
Right, and Lee J, correct me if I'm wrong, but what the planning board's charge is from the selectmen is not to decide whether or not there should be a contract zone there. What the planning board is asked to do is use our expertise to look at the proposed contract zone language, and does it fit in with what we see as being an area that could be developed and supported? Does it fit within the underlying zone that's already there? But the decision to have the contract zone rests with the select board, not necessarily with us.
Correct. This body is the technical review body, and you look at all aspects of the development, if you will, and whether it does meet your comprehensive plan requirements, and whether or not it makes sense for it to be developed in this manner, and anything to do with whatever may be in the contract. It is the select board's decision as the policymaker for the town to accept or reject the recommendations and the contract, to decide whether or not that zone or that development of that parcel in this manner makes sense for the community. That decision lies with them.
Great, thank you. Vicki, I know you wanted, yeah, come on up.
I was trying to keep my comments limited. I have read the comprehensive plan. I do see what the future vision is. I was trying not to get out of the scope of the immediate contract zone. But based on their comments, I just feel like I have to respond. If the plan is to create the village, and I certainly understand that, and at the same time to say that putting sidewalks in the village is insurmountable, makes me wonder whether that's the right place for the village center. Because you need sidewalks. If you're going to cluster all these families into an area, they need to get places, and they need to do it safely. I live off the Jellison Road, and I try to walk down to the Town Line Market, and I feel like I'm taking my life in my hands. People go so fast on that road. 202 is terrible. It's not designed to walk on. So if you, again, I know you're making the recommendations to the selectmen, so I really hope you'll consider this. If the plan is to make this our village, then so be it, but let's do it right at this stage. Let's make each person who's developing pay for a piece of that sidewalk so that it's safe for our residents as time goes on. And then the other piece that was touched upon was the recreation. The reason all these people are here behind me is because they all have property abutting. Everett owns a 2-mile railroad bed, and that keeps being mentioned in everything, that someday we'll put a parking lot so people can access the private railroad bed, which is our land where we live and play and hunt, where we go to be safe with our family. And we don't want to be worried about trespassers. I mean, if you were to get Everett and Fay and others up here to talk, we could tell you terrible stories about what people are doing, putting Nazi crosses, killing animals and leaving deer heads, starting fires. This used to be open to the public until the public started trashing it so bad that the family decided they had to close it. And so it's really difficult for us to see all this language. They keep referring to acquiring this property that has been in the family for 4 generations. So if having clustered housing is going to require you to push people onto private property because they have no place else to recreate, then that in itself is a really bad plan. Again,
Great.
thank you for being patient.
Thank you. Yeah, and I absolutely understand what you're saying. A lot of that, I think, needs to be brought up with the select board during their public hearing. As for the sidewalks, I don't believe that's something that we can necessarily put into a contract zone agreement, or if that's something that would be brought up during the application review of the development, we can then say, all right, we would like sidewalks. If that doesn't work, what else can be done? Can the road maybe be widened a little bit and a hatched off area put down the side, like you see with bike lanes? But can it be a pedestrian lane down there instead of having to build something up into sidewalks? But that's something, I believe, that comes up during the application phase, not the contract zoning phase itself.
I mean, something like that can be recommended to the select board to consider. Whether they choose to do that or not is their decision.
Right.
The issue, the bigger issue that anybody's going to have is that that's a state aid road. And nothing
Right.
can be done there without the DOT's approval. Even if we think it's a great idea and we're going to get sidewalk to the town in the town for free, the DOT still has to sign off on it, and they may not. I mean, and if they
Right.
don't, then where do we go?
They'll probably want to do studies and all kinds of
Right.
things, and
Correct.
that's still something we could explore when it gets to that.
Certainly, if the
phase.
DOT's, I mean, they just rebuilt that area not too long
Right.
ago. I mean, if they were going to come back in and do it again, it would behoove the town, if you will, to be dealing with the DOT and say, we need sidewalks in this area because we're getting more density, we're getting more development.
Right. So that's something that would come from the select board.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Lori.
This is the sidewalk, I do have a comment on the sidewalk issue, which is not part of this contract agreement. I do know it was brought up at the last meeting by somebody for you to consider sidewalk all the way to Hannaford. In my humble opinion, you're only responsible for your own parcel. So if we get to that stage, I'd like to see the possibility of the sidewalk across your own parcel, and everybody else is responsible for sidewalks across their own parcels. That's just my opinion. Or if the town does it as a community.
Or if the state says that we feel that this area is undergoing growth and we feel that a sidewalk needs to be there, that way the state takes up that.
Yeah, and, yeah, with all the state.
Correct.
If we get to that point.
Yeah, and I mean, it certainly is something that I can mention in the memo from you folks to the select board that it is an issue. I also can do some additional investigation through my office because we are a transportation group for York County. We do get rural funds from the DOT, and through that process I can find out what the DOT's thought about it is.
Right.
And then something can go forward from there. So I can certainly check into that.
Devin, you have something?
Yeah, I know this is probably like a little bit preceding the stage of where we're at, but you had mentioned recreation in these facilities you're creating. I'm wondering, at least so that the people that are here can know the answer to, what are your thoughts on that? Like, when you say recreation, what do you mean?
We're thinking walking paths.
Trails.
Okay.
And that would,
And that's,
it wouldn't be on anyone else's property because we or anyone else would not have rights to it. It would be within the 13 plus acres
Right.
on the other side of the bed. So,
And part of higher density is to disturb less land and leave more natural, which is what we'd be doing on the entire back. of the
Right,
property.
and like with the sidewalks, the recreational use of open land, of the open space during the development is considered during the development.
Right.
The application
I just wanted to
consideration.
be able to ask that question so that.
Yeah, oh, absolutely,
Answer.
no, absolutely. No, definitely, and I'm sure it's something that should be brought up to the select board as well. All right, is there anything further? Is it something new and different that deals with just the contract zone, not a future development?
No.
Because we did close the public hearing.
Would you like me not to speak?
No, you can speak. Does anybody object to it? Because I'm more than happy to have, I love it when the public shares their comments with us. I just need your name and address for the
My name is
record.
Everett Parker, 64 Everett Lane, East Waterboro. only because this was brought up in, downtown's been developed quickly. And apparently, we've made a lot of mistakes because we just discussed them. You can't get across to Hannaford, there's all kinds of issues and permits and everything else, which should have been taken care of when this development happened. So why continue this process? Why continue? We recognize it's a problem, let's fix it now. Let's not say, well, geez, we can't do that, it costs too much, we can't. I just don't see that. It's time to step up and say, yeah, we have a problem, let's stop it from growing. Fix it. I mean, we have that opportunity. We know it's going to be a problem if we don't do it. People, you're going to put potentially 75 to 100 people in this area. You're going to have a lot more pedestrian traffic. And you're going to have a lot of interactions there with vehicle traffic and people. Now, I know you can't correct all these problems. I'm not asking anybody to, but start somewhere and make it right. It's not all about money. Just make it right. I don't care what you do downtown, but just do it right. Thank you.
Absolutely great, thank you. Ma'am, did you have something to?
My question was about...
If you want to just come up, yeah.
My question is...
Again, just need your name and address.
Stacy Walker, 21 Everett Lane.
Hi, Stacy.
If it's rezoned, what type of protections are there from DEP? Because we see a lot of impact to our property when we build more buildings, holding pools, septic systems. We actually see the results of that. We've seen it a little bit from Hannaford when that was built, coming into our streams. How are we protected if you rezone? And how do we manage that and keep up with it and make sure it doesn't destroy our property? My other question was, if they use that land for recreational, that limits our recreation on our property.
Thanks. Well, to the first point, I'm sure the DEP permitting, and I know that the applicant, say it or Lee J, comes up with the application process itself, that they need to file certain requests with DEP, who reviews it and issues certain permits on it. As for...
Are we privy to that? With that information?
Absolutely. During the whole application process, it's open to the public to take a look at whatever does come in from the DEP, what their findings are and what the submissions are to the DEP. They're absolutely, and if it gets to the point where an application does come in, there's going to probably be a site walk there that we invite the public to come out to as well, and to point out any issues that you feel, oh, there's a wet zone over there, or there's an issue over here. So the public has more than enough opportunities to speak. And although we set a public hearing, a scheduled public hearing, anytime an application comes up before the board, I always allow the public to speak. If you take the time to come down and want to say something, by all means, I always invite people to come up and just share their thoughts with us. It's better than saving it to the end, so this way we know what's going on along the way. Is there anything from, yep, Devin?
I just one quick question for her to try to clarify something that she said, because you had mentioned it kind of infringing on your ability to, and your ability to enjoy your property.
Yes, absolutely, because we hunt our property. You start having individuals closer to our property lines, sets us back. It invites other people to come on my property and hunt, because we deal with that regularly. And it just becomes a little dangerous with rifles and stuff in there.
Okay,
So now when you, over the brook, that piece of property abuts mine, you are now closer to my property. My house is, the house is on Jellison Road, and it just, if people are in there recreating, it limits us hunting.
Right, yeah, and these are all things that, again, come up, and we do talk about if and when an application does come in on a development, that the applicants usually work with the abutters and with us.
And I don't think it's your intention to force individuals out of the town either.
Right, no,
Which-
no.
When things abut other property and you're not really thinking about it.
well, I asked to make sure I know, so when we're having our conversations, I can keep that in the back of my mind.
And again, all these comments are great comments, and I would invite you all to please attend the Select Board's meeting and public hearing on this same issue and bring it up to them, because, as Lee J said, they're the policymakers. They're the ones who have the ultimate say, yes or no, on the contract zone. We're just looking at it saying, all right, does the contract zone make sense in this area? Knowing what we know, Does it make sense based upon the comprehensive plan and everything else? We're the technical advisors to them. We're the subject matter experts. We tell them, yeah, it fits there. Whether you want to put one there or not, that's for you guys to decide. You're the elected officials. You make policy. Take care of it.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
My name's Mary Parker,
Hi, Mary.
9 Everett Lane. So has there been an impact study on the road for the traffic from all these proposed houses?
Again, Mary, there is nothing proposed yet, and the contract zone itself doesn't affect traffic. That if a traffic impact study is needed, it will come up during the application review process.
So you've changed your process over the years?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Because I tried to do something on our property, and before I was even allowed to submit anything, I was told I had to pay for an impact study on the road.
Well, I don't know I wasn't around then.
I would assume I was not around either. My only assumption would be that it was not part of a contract zone process, but it was part of a possible development process.
No, it was just to put target butts up and have people come shoot.
Well, that would be a business, a development on your property.
It's not a business if you're not charging. If it's for all family.
Again, I was not here, so I don't know what the discussion was. I'm just making some assumptions, but, I think they hear loud and clear, and I certainly do, that when they make their submission for the development project, they are going to need to provide a traffic impact study.
Because we already have trouble getting out of the Jellerson Road
Right.
onto 202.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, and I know that if an application did come in that a traffic impact study, I was going to request if it wasn't already required and to see, all right, does there need to be a turning lane put in there or some other changes need to happen? Like when the gas station down the road, the Waterboro Marketplace went in there was a traffic impact study done and a turning lane was installed there to satisfy
started
it.
20 feet from the Jellerson Road because we've been so impacted by the increased traffic.
Sure.
It's nothing to sit at the top of that road to get out and wait for 10 minutes. God forbid anyone on that road have an emergency and be trying to get to the hospital.
Right.
They're not going to make it in time.
Yep, and like I said, yeah, I absolutely understand what you're saying about that. There is definitely going to need to be a traffic impact study there. It's just not something that is necessarily needed when a contract zone is being proposed. It's not a requirement for that.
Can I ask one more question about the zone? Strictly about the zone.
Sure.
I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with this process.
And it's
so-
Stacy, right?
It is
Okay,
Stacy.
Stacy's back on the record again.
So, is it possible to look at the zone and not include that piece over the brook in that same zoning? So it can't be developed in the future?
It won't be developed. But
That's
Say that, but it's part of
No,
the same zone.
what we can do is when there's an application that comes in for a
Yep.
large parcel,
Yep.
and they're only developing a smaller part of it, and the rest of it is dedicated open space, it can be put in there as a condition of approval that that portion will never be developed.
No buildings,
No, nothing.
parking
It will
lots,
remain,
no
it will
bridges,
remain
no
open
whatever.
space. The only thing you could do to it is maintain it, mow the lawn. If there's paths on it, maintain those,
Yes,
anything
whatever-
else.
That's right, it's whatever is agreed to, like you were alluding to a path. It would, the contract would state how it would be maintained.
Right.
Like Forever Wild or whatever you talk.
Right, it can't be split off as a separate parcel for later development because we're
Okay,
looking
I
at,
just wanna make
we're
sure.
looking at the parcel as a whole,
Okay.
supporting a certain density of people that they can't then just split off apart and develop that with more people because it would then violate the initial approval itself.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that that.
No,
part-
absolutely, and that's a great
That
question. No, it
part
absolutely
would-
is.
Would remain.
No, that's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the benefits,
Right.
is keeping that in a natural state.
Right, and that's why we do concentrated density growth, is to put, instead of 36 households spread out over a large area, you put them in a small area and have a lot more green space in there, and especially where it can be supported. But no, it was a great question. Anything further from the public, applicant, board, Lee J?
Will we be notified when this goes before the...
The select board?
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I believe they are. The abutters are notified when it goes to the select board?
Dennis, your process with the select board for the public
Select
hearing.
board will be, we do not notify abutters, we publish that there's a public hearing. Planning
So
board-
they do publish their agendas, and you'll see it on their agenda. And that way you'll know when to show up for it.
Or call town hall.
Or call town hall.
And ask.
Right, when is this going to be on
Correct.
the select board?
Call Laura.
Or sign up for the newsletter and
Yeah.
you get it all the time.
All right, is there anything further from anyone? All right, then we need a motion, again, similar to the previous one, a motion to forward this to the select board with our recommendation that they adopt it as written. Yep, got a motion by Clyde, do we have a second? Seconded by Laurie. All right, if nothing further, all in favor? We have 4 yeas against?
Against.
Oh, you voted, you're against?
Against.
Okay, and we have 1 against, Rebecca.
4 in favor.
Yeah.
One
Yes.
against.
I was confused, I was like,
Yeah, I'm like,
Back there.
I'm like, is there harm going on? So 4 for, 1 against. 4, okay. And thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight and your comments. Absolutely, I understand your concerns with it. And again, Select Board is a great place to go and also share those comments with them.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Item, sure, gentlemen. Item 3 is an update on the solar ordinance. And I guess Lee J will provide that to us in a second. We don't want to rush him.
I'm sorry?
Do you have an update on the solar ordinance? Because that's on the agenda for some reason.
So I don't have an update on the solar ordinance. Nothing was communicated to me that I was to do anything on that. I think the concern that was put on by Angela because, again, there was no communication to me about doing anything. We weren't sure who was going to do anything, and the clock is ticking. You have 180 days from the date of the moratorium to do something.
Right. I guess that's your update. You can let everybody know that a moratorium was passed.
Correct, the moratorium was passed by the select board about 30 days ago now, and that clock is ticking. The town has to do something within 180 days, or show that they've been working on something and need an extension of another 180 days. But again, nothing was communicated to me, so I'm not sure who's doing anything on that.
All right, so, and this is why I think us having an ordinance committee would be great to have them look at this again.
Solar ordinance, and voted on it.
Yeah, we forwarded something to the select board, and I think they bounced it back to us.
Well,
I did not realize that.
No, Devin, we did, we voted on it, we sent it to the select board, and they, after their public hearing, chose to, I would say, table it, and then ask to have a moratorium developed to place a moratorium on solar farms until this ordinance is revisited again.
Okay, did they make any comments as to what they would like?
Again, nothing was communicated to me.
Yeah, because unless we have something from the select board directing the planning board to again revisit this, because we've already voted on what we proposed.
You guys had a workshop.
Right, we had a workshop with the select board, but that was a select board workshop, and from it, there was no directive back to the planning board saying, we looked at what you sent to us, we considered it, here's what we want you to do now. Change it, do this, do that, here's what we would like to see. So that way, we then are charged with, again, reviewing it, and we can even have our own ordinance committee look at it and try to see, okay, where is it deficient and where does the select board have their issues with it? So we need that commandment from on high. That way we're not just being rogue and doing our own thing. All right, let's see. Number 4, adopt the amended bylaws. So we have the bylaws. The last amendment shows June 2nd of 2021. And people were thought that's when the amended bylaws were adopted, but they really weren't adopted because there was no full vote of the board to do. I'm still trying to figure out in here, it says that there's 5 members of the board and 2 alternates. Is that still the case?
That is,
You guys left that as is.
Left it as is.
Is that something that we as a board can change, or is that something that has to come from the select board to change?
That one, I thought
that
was,
comes out of the, well, what you have to follow is what is in your charter.
yeah, if I remember correctly, we talked about this, but it was a charter rule.
It's a charter.
The
So we
charter-
couldn't change it.
Well, except that, if I remember part of that conversation, yes. So the charter says, there shall be a planning board composed of 5 regular members and 2 alternate members, who shall be appointed by the Board of Selectmen. All members shall be voting members. And that's where the confusion
Yeah,
comes.
that's what I was wondering. I'm like,
Because technically, it's really 7 board members, and the way the wording is, it's 7 voting board members, but it is 5 regular board members and 2 alternates. So, I guess several things could happen. One less likely to happen would be a change to the charter.
right, which takes, yeah,
Correct.
takes
The
an act of
other-
God.
The other way to do it, and I will, if I put it in my memory banks with everything else I got going on, I will probably see Natalie Burns tomorrow night, and I can talk to her about it, but to me, the most logical thing would be that it be a 7-member board, 5 voting members, 2 alternates that would have the opportunity to be elevated to a regular member if someone else is not here. And that person,
Okay.
one of those 2 would vote, or 2 of those people would vote.
Right.
But I will try to get some clarity from her tomorrow.
Yeah, because when there's 5 of us here, everything works out fine. 5 votes, 5 members, but when there's 6 people, who are the 5? Because the appointment's coming from the select board, there's no designation. You're a member, you're an alternate member. So none of us have those tags.
We have not designated alternates since, in 15 years.
Right, right, so when there's 6 of us here,
So the charter, I think, was a misquote, okay? It's
Yeah.
a 7-person board, all 7 people vote, okay? Unfortunately, the charter contained some of the old language in it.
Right.
That said it was 5 and 2 alternates.
because my concern is,
We can take that to the voters because it's not a substantial change
yeah,
to the form of government. We can have that in the June referendum vote. To strike that,
mhm.
to just say it's a 7-member board.
Right, yeah, because I'm sure Natalie will pick up, and my concern is that when we do have 6 or 7 members here voting, who are the 5 voting ones? Because we don't want it to be,
You have a charter that says all 7 members vote. So you don't have to make that distinction. The charter says all 7 members vote.
Wouldn't the issue be more around a quorum?
we need at least 4 for a quorum, according to the bylaws.
To the bylaws, yes. Just,
Which would mean you
Yeah.
have a
Charter.
7-person board.
It would just make life easy, yeah, just a June referendum to just make it to 7, yeah.
Send us a request to administratively change the language in the charter, and then we'll take that to the voters. It does not impact the structure of the town government.
Right. It's just clearing up a discrepancy, yeah.
But I think the fact that the charter says all 7 members vote trumps who's an alternate. And we've not made a designation,
Right,
like I said, in 15 years.
yeah, that's what I was wondering, yeah, it's always operated as 7 members until I saw that language, I'm like, wait, what? How come it's only 5, so, all right, good, so this way we'll clear that up. All right, so procedurally, we just need a motion to adopt the bylaws as written?
Yep.
Unless there's
I
anything.
had one question on it. It's just, the whole thing is confusing, but the review process was fine, but my concern was, there was a November 2nd, 16. I know the June, we didn't pass it in June, so, but I was wondering if that could be added to, that was, it was amended in November 16th, to add that in also with the amended item.
So you're saying?
Just at the bottom of the...
Yeah, they're on the cover page, it's just this silly,
Yeah.
technical,
Yeah.
stupid thing.
That way you know where to go back to look to see what an amendment may have been, the older versions.
The older version.
What's the date, Lori?
November 2nd, 2016 was the last amended revision.
It needs to be adopted on September 16, 2021. Right?
Yeah.
15?
And then this, yes, then the September 15th.
Half September
one,
gone
yeah.
by. All right, so with that
If we adopt it.
change, right, so there'll be a fourth amendment on there.
Right.
All right, is there anything further from any members of the board? All right, then we just need a motion to adopt the planning board bylaws as amended.
Motion.
Yeah, we got a motion by Rebecca and seconded by Devin. All in favor? Let's see, okay. Everybody had their hands up, we got 5 yeas. All right, they're adopted. Let there be no doubt. They were. All right, last item comes from the select board, because we were there for it. It's a discussion now regarding exemptions of 40 acres or more, 40 acre or more lots in subdivisions. And maybe Lee J can explain to everybody, because we were all confused at first what this was, and maybe you can explain what this exemption would be for and how things work today. Good luck.
First
Devin
off,
was the only one that was.
Yeah, I was unable to make it that day.
That's all right.
so first off, just as a follow-up to the chairman's comment, the state subdivision law is a very confusing law, and there are lots of nuances about it. What the state law does is allow for, if a town chooses to adopt it, is an exemption of 40 acre lots, 40 acre or more in size lots, from being considered a lot in a subdivision. Most towns, including this town, do not usually adopt that as an exemption. What it means as an exemption would be that if someone came in with a 10-lot subdivision on 100 acres and they wanted to not include a 40-acre parcel or larger as part of the subdivision, that they would not consider it a lot in the subdivision. However, they still would have to have survey and include that as part of the mother parcel. It just is not a lot in the subdivision. A request came to the select board for this board to consider changing that, and there was a request to have a joint workshop. This board, I believe there were four board members?
Yeah, 4 of us, yeah.
That were present, and the select board had 2 members that were present. And you folks had discussion about that, although it was not, no decisions were made, because they could only be made at a public meeting such as this, and that was a workshop. And I believe at least the sentiment coming out of that from the select board members that were there was that leave well alone and do not change it. However, that is for you folks to now debate, make a decision, and send your recommendation back to the select board for them to make their determination as to what to do.
Great, thanks, Lee J. So I think the best way to do it, and we started talking about it at that workshop, was to maybe come up with pros and cons of, do we keep it, leave it the same, or do we propose changing it? Because as Lee J was saying, the way things work today, if there's a 100-acre parcel, they're only going to use 60 acres of it. The other 40 is still considered within the entire development. That we could tell them it's going to be used for open space or anything else. So that way, if in the future the developer wants to now put another development on that, they need to come back to amend their development to split that off. However, if there's an exemption in there, then that 40 acres isn't going to be considered part of that 60-acre now development, so they don't need to come back and amend that first application. They can just go ahead with a brand new second application to put another development next to the first one. Does that make sense? Is there none of this is going to make too much sense because of the state of the law, but in a nutshell, that's what it comes down to. Unless the owner of that 100-acre parcel, I don't understand why they don't just split into two separate lots, a 60 and a 40, using a straw man or something to get that 40-acre lot into another name. Because you can't just split it amongst yourself. Though you have to do it a certain legal, technical way.
Right, I mean, again, I think part of the issue, again, I was not privy to all of the conversation, but I believe part of that request came from someone who was looking to do some sort of a family subdivision. However, what happened in the particular case was that they put the property into an LLC, which took it out of the family name, so therefore they couldn't get the exemptions for family lots because it was no longer in the family name but in an LLC.
Right.
And that's what prompted the thought of pursuing this.
Well, from my view and my opinion is that if it's, and this came up before, if it's not broke, why fix it? And I think it's been working the way it has been for a long, long time. And there's no real major issue coming up that would basically warrant creating this exemption for 40 acres on there. Anybody else have any thoughts, comments? I know we still have our fans in the back, our public. If anytime you guys have anything to add on this, by all means, feel free to speak up. Maybe you can clarify a few things that... Vicky's a taker. Let's go.
It makes sense to keep it the way it is. I can see a developer using the fact that they have that 40 acres there is kind of, to entice you to agree with the development and then later changing it.
Right.
So I agree with you. I like how thoughtful you all are.
Definitely as a planning board, we like to have extra land to play with. So we can tell them, all right, you want to do this? Here's the open space that you're going to do. You're going to put a skate pond there, a warming hut or a gazebo or a playground. It just gives us something, it gives us a buffer between the development and the abutters around them, is to have that extra land in there.
Yeah, I think you're wise.
Thanks. Lori, do you have anything? I saw your hand starting to...
No, it was there, I was just
I
waiting.
think the select board chairman was about to speak.
The discussions that we had were, why would we do this, right? But technically, we need to talk.
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like...
Right?
Yep.
So...
Yep, we're going to let Lori, and then Debbie.
Yeah, you know what? And I was at the workshop, and I agree. I do not believe we should exempt the partial from subdivision. I think it should be included as a lot, as land remaining in the subdivision. That's simple. Don't change it, basically.
Sounds good.
I
Devin?
feel like in this case that they were mentioning of, they put it in an LLC, can they just buy it back from the LLC?
But then they have to wait 5 years. There's a 5-year ownership before you get the family exemption for transfer without having to go through site development.
So in this case, somebody screwed up.
Yeah, and I feel badly for that,
They want the town to fix it.
I feel badly for that, but I don't want a decision because we feel badly for, that to set a precedent.
Yeah, and
that
I
we
feel
don't
bad
wanna
that they
deal
may have
with.
gotten bad advice or didn't get the
Yeah.
advice that they should have gotten, but unfortunately, I don't like changing laws or ordinances to suit one person in
Yeah,
one
it
particular
doesn't-
instance. It's not a good way to
No.
make laws and to make policy on things all the time. Anything else from anybody? Also, I don't believe we need a vote, but I believe we'll just send to the select board that it's the consensus of the planning board to leave things as they are for the reasons brought up at tonight's meeting. Sound good to everybody?
Yes. Yes.
Alrighty. So that's it for our regular items. Any communications that need to go out? I know we still have one vacancy. I guess with Dennis here, has any applications come into the select board?
Not at this point.
Alright, so I'll put out to the public then, if there's anybody who wishes to serve the town. If anybody would love to be on this board and work with the town and not just be sitting at home going, oh my God, I could do so much better than those guys up there, what are they doing? By all means, contact the clerk's office, go online to the town's website, print out an application, email an application, get your name in, and we're more than happy to have you join us up here on the planning board. We all love it.
I will tell you, you won't, I go to Florida 5.
So we got you for
We can always go back to Zooming the meeting.
All right, is there anything else that needs to come before the board? Looks like our next meeting is October 6th. All right, if there's nothing further, then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
All right, got a motion by Lori, seconded by Clyde. All in favor? We have 5 yeas. Thank you very much, everybody, again.